Hello and welcome. If this is your first time visiting, please be sure to check out my other repair videos. To support the channel for free, all you have to do is subscribe, comment, and like. Now let's get on to today's video. Okay guys, this will be part 2 of this big mess of the dashboard removal to get to the heater core in this car. One thing the manual did not touch on when I was looking to get this out was talking about this bar that goes across, and your steering wheel is mounted to that, and the bar covers that box that has to come out, so I've decided that bar is just going to have to go. It doesn't look as bad as you think it's going to be. The main thing is that the fuse boxes are connected to it. You can either disconnect your fuse boxes, I guess, from the mount and pull them out, or you can just unplug them and let them go with the mount, which is what I'm going to do. And since my goal is going to be to pick this thing up and just kind of set it long ways over here, so that means that everything that's connected under here has to be disconnected to make sure that you have room for all that to go. So I'm going to show you, as far as I can tell, what it's going to take to get it out. We'll start on this side. You have this bolt here, and there's another one underneath it, and you can see it just kind of holds it up into that bracket right there. All right, let's go around to the other side. All right, and this is looking where the steering wheel mounts here, and you have this bar that goes down here, and then there are 4 bolts that come through the door over here. They're covered with these black caps. I've already taken one off. You just dig it out, and it has a 12mm bolt that runs through that, holds that bar on. So what I'm going to do, and also I've disconnected as much over here as I can, but I've determined that one long cable across the top is going to be too much trouble to get out. So my goal is just going to be to take it apart here, again move that corner there over to the driver's seat, just to kind of swing it out of the way. That way most of this stuff can stay connected. So the next thing we'll do, when we'll get the last 3 of these out, I'm going to disconnect there, and then where it bolts in over there, and hopefully I'm going to be able to swing it away. I'll come back and show you what I've accomplished. Okay guys, that bar is loose. There you go. I found 5 more bolts for it. I've never done this before, so I'm flying by the seat of my pants. But 1, 2, 3, 4, and then back here on this bracket here, number 5. Once those 5 are loose, I found one more plug for the wiring harness over there. I got that disconnected. Now I've got this out of the way. I'm ready to start pulling this box. Alright, now that we have access to the box up in the passenger compartment, we have to disconnect it where it's connected in the engine compartment. Taking the air box off and the hose, we go all the way in here, and this is the piece that we're after right here. What has to happen is this cable on the back needs to come off, and it's clipped in right here. Then back here, let's try to show you the best I can, that back clamp, I'm going to take that off and then pull this whole valve assembly off here. That bolt there needs to go, because all of this is actually goes through the firewall and into the passenger compartment. We'll get on that, come back when we're finished. All right, here is that valve off of the firewall. You see it has that wire that runs through that actually connects to this piece here, and it just opens and closes whether or not to allow hot water in, I guess, into the system. You see down here, that is the heater core pipes sticking in through the firewall. You got to get these, you see that cable down on the right, that's got to pull back through the firewall, and then when I'm ready to take the heater core out, it's all pulling straight out there. Let's move on. Okay, one more thing that I need to remove from the engine compartment before I go back inside, I forgot. And I'm going to try my best to show you this nut that you have to get to, but the box for the heater core comes through the firewall, and here behind your intake manifold and down low, it's kind of hard to show you, but there's a stud that comes through your firewall, and it has what looks like a 10mm nut on top of it. That's got to go back here. I can feel it. It doesn't feel like it's going to be too much trouble to get it. I just can't see it. So I'm going to pull that off. Apparently that holds the back of the box to the firewall inside the car. Get that out, move back to inside the car. Alright guys, I should have started off the first video with this rather than waiting for now, but you can see those two pipes here. They have to be disconnected. Those are your lines for your AC, high pressure and low pressure side. What you need to do before you get started on this, take this car to a professional, have the AC system fully discharged, because those two have to come off, because the evaporator under the dash has to pull through right there. So sorry I didn't mention that in the first one. I'll put a comment up on the remarks in that video. Try to catch somebody before they get as far as I did without realizing the AC system has to be discharged. Okay, with that removed from the firewall side, that on the engine side, that was actually a 12mm nut that went over that stud that pushes through. So what I'm going after now is this one here, and there's one just like it on the other side. And that's all the manual really tells you. Then it starts talking about when you got this out, you start messing around with the heater box, which is in this neighborhood right here, the heater core itself. So I'm just gonna start taking stuff apart and see if I can get to that part. I'll come back and show you what I figured out. Okay, with the AC lines and the heat lines disconnected, again, took these bolts off the top of the heater box. There's some other bolts that you should look for that hold it to the blower motor here. Your evaporator for your AC goes in between here and here. That needs to come out. And then on the bottom of your box, you have these little black screws that hold the actual boxes together also. Those two of those that need to come out. After I had everything disconnected, everything pulled straight through the dashboard. The one thing to remember is this cable down here that works that valve on the front. That has to come through also. So here is my heater core pipes here. I'm going to get this whole box out of the car. We're going to take a look at it, see what's going to go into replacing that. Now that we've gotten to this point, it doesn't look like there's much more to do. This is the easy part. All right, let's move along. All right, with that out of the car, let's take a little closer look so you can see what you were after. This box here in the middle that has your heater core in it is what you're going after, but in order for that to come out, the evaporator box for the AC has to come out as well. So they just kind of pull that together, then they just pull apart. I mentioned those black screws that hold the plastic together at the bottom. On the back of this heater, or this box, there is your heater core. All of that to get to this $25 part. I'm going to take a look at this, see if I can figure out where it was leaking at. It doesn't really matter. I know it was leaking, and we're going to get the new one installed. Let me take a look and see what's going to go into this. I'll try to show you the best I can how to get that out and put the new one in. Alright, I've got that out. I just took a Phillips screwdriver, take these clamps off that hold the pipe, and then the whole thing just slides right out. And taking a quick look at it, I think I've already figured out the problem. One thing I noticed when I was working on the dash is that a lot of the bolts were loose and missing, so I'd already figured somebody had probably taken this dash out somewhere in the past. And lo and behold, here I am, got this out, and what's around the top of this, ladies and gentlemen, that's JB Weld. Some fool went to all the trouble of taking the dashboard out of this car to JB Weld a $25 part. That is absolutely amazing. Although the car, I had it for a long time and it did not leak, so their repair worked for a while, but that's going to be the culprit, I do believe. See some dents in it. Again, this thing should not be dented anywhere. Comes from the factory like that. Somebody's had this out. You see I have my new one here. Appears to be exactly the same thing. I'm going to slide this in to this box and start putting everything back together. All of that to get to this one repair right here. All right, let me get that going and we're going to start putting things back together. Alright guys, before I start reassembling this thing, one thing I am going to take the time to do, just looking down in the AC evaporator box, you see there's bugs and all kinds of things mixed up in there. Same thing's going on pretty much with the other half of this box as well, so I'm going to get all that dug out, cleaned out, vacuum clean it, and take care of that. I'm going to move over here and show you the cabin air filters that came out of my car and let you take a gander at how nasty that can be. Alright, and this would be the cabin air filters, which I think may be Honda original from 2000 when this car was assembled even. Just black. What this does is between your blower motor, and then the rest of your HVAC system, it blows the air through this, and it's supposed to catch particulates and other whatnots. And these have done their job, so I've got a new pack of those. I'll show you how to put those in and where they go. All right, this is of course the AC evaporator box, and this, if you're looking at this is installed in the car, this is going to be directly behind your glove box. So your glove box does need to come out when you change that cabin air filter. You're looking for this part right here. You just reach down here and just clip it up, and the whole thing just comes up like that. Now you look down in there, you see all the mess I have in mine. I'm going to take a vacuum cleaner and get that cleaned out, and I'm going to come back and show you putting the new filters in. All right, and you have to take your old filters out of the little frames that they come in, and then you put the new filters in, but you have to make sure that you get it right. If you look on the side of the filter, see it has a arrow indicating where the airflow goes, and then if you also look on the piece, it also has an arrow showing where the airflow goes. So you need to get those filters into this part right, because this only goes in one way. I'll come back and show you how to put these where they live. All right, looking down the box, this is going to be the top of the box here. The airflow comes from the blower motor through the AC evaporator like that. You see I have the first one in. You put these in at the bottom, then you slide these up to the top, and you can see it has these two little places on the frame that fit in there. We're just going to drop the other one in the same manner. Put the cap back on. We're ready to start putting this stuff back in the car. All right, and one last step while I have this out of the car. Well, it's easy to get to. All this foam insulation, it just gets old and it turns into that. It's just basically useless at that point. This part actually goes up into the dashboard. This is where your defrost comes out, and these will be where your main vents for the front of the dash come through here. So what I'm going to do is I purchased a couple rolls of this stuff here. I'm going to get all this cleaned off, get as much of that old stuff off as I can, scrape it, use some solvent, whatever I need to do to get the glue off, and I'm just going to tape new pieces there. I don't know how good this is going to do, but it's got to be better than what I already have. So just a little heads up also, if you've got yours out, you may want to consider doing that as well. All right, fellas, I got everything ready to start putting back in now. I'm going to cover one thing from the last video. I talked about the stud that comes through the firewall that you have the 12mm nut on top of. That is it on the back of the main part of the air box here. And if you see there right above the computer, that red hole right there, that's where that goes through. Then you want to, don't forget to secure that with your nut when it goes back in. And then those two holes there, you make sure you get your heater core through that carefully, don't break anything. And you also want to make sure that you get that cable through the bottom hole. You see how it's kind of oblong for that. And then of course you have the hole for your AC condenser to go back in there. There's really no way I can set up a camera in this mess I've got going right now. So I'm showing you what I'm getting ready to start doing. I'm going to start getting that stuff pushed back in where it belongs. I'll come back and show you when I've made a little progress. Alright guys, this is the progress I made so far. I've got the boxes back in. I made sure all the pieces that went through the firewall were in the right place. Came back and went ahead and put this steering reinforcing bar back in. Just go back and watch how we took it out. It goes back in the same way. The main thing is when you're putting that in, keep up with where all your wires are at and make sure that they're going to the right places, because you don't want anything stuck behind that bar that doesn't belong, because you might have to pull it back out to get the wiring harness loose. Alright, so I'm going to move along now. Guess we're going to go ahead and start thinking about getting the dashboard back in the car. Alright, and before I'm going to put the dash in, I stopped and gave it a little more thought to it, and I decided it would be best if I went ahead and started getting some of these wires connected. Again, I can't really go over every single one for you. I can just kind of show you some pictures where things go. Some things still aren't hooked up because there's parts of the dash plug into that. But I figure the more of these I can get to go where they're supposed to go, also some down under here, and all this under here as well. That's when I bring the dashboard and its wires in, that's going to be a little less complicated to figure out where things go. It's my suggestion to you. This seems to be working for me. I'm going to press on. Alright, I'm ready to put the dash back in now. I've did the same thing on the other side, the fuse box on the driver's side and got that thing ready to go. What I'm doing now, before I start to do this, make sure I have all my wiring harnesses where they need to be, so that way nothing's going to get pinched or be in the way when I start putting this dashboard back in. And remember, you have those wires, the cable bundles running out of the dash too, so you need to make sure those fall through the places that they're supposed to, so they can wind up where they need to be. Remember, I told you have these 3 pins there in the middle and on that side. That's what you slide the dashboard up against, that the 3 holes in the back of the dashboard that match up with that. And once you get that put in there, I guess we're going to start trying to make sure all of our wires are going to the right place to start bolting things down. I'll come back when I've got that done. Alright, I've got that started. It's just in place, nothing's bolted down yet. And I'm going to show you just one thing I think bears in mind. If you look through this vent hole here and this wire that comes down here, you want to make sure that that wire is behind this bar. You don't want it to be in front of it, because it's going to want to kind of land in front, but it needs to fall down back there. And then again, on the center part, I have all the wires fall down where they're supposed to be, and the same thing over there with the passenger side fuse box. So I'm going to get this thing shoved in there best I can. Go ahead and start tightening these bolts back down. Alright, went after some low-hanging fruit, got my instrument cluster back in, got these A-pillar covers back on. I think I'm going to go ahead and put that steering wheel back up. Just remember, you got that one bracket here that goes around the bottom part and bolts up with 2 12mm bolts, and then the at the top, there's 2 parts that come down just under the dash. There's 2 studs that come down, and you have those 14mm nuts that go over that to hold the whole assembly up. I'm going to go ahead and get that done right now. Alright, starting to look like a car again over on that side. I'm ready to go ahead and drop this airbag back in, I believe. One thing, if you remember, you have these 4 10mm nuts that go on that, but you can look here, and it's got thread locker on it that they put on there, so I'm going to clean that off and I'm going to reapply thread locker. I guess that's a item you really don't want to come loose. But all it's going to do, you just drop it in through the dash. It bolts up to those 4 places right there, and make sure your connectors heading this way to go through that part there. Alright, airbag is back in. Again, you just drop that down. After you get it in place before you put your nuts on, you want to, help for me, I started at this corner and kind of got the front pushed down first just with my fingers, and it might take a couple of these to get it just right, but it's not too difficult to get back in. Alright, I'm going to turn my attention over here to the driver's side fuse box now, and all the parts that go around it, and just start plugging stuff in. Things, again, tend to want to go where they belong. The wires are kind of crimped in that direction after being in that same position for years. So just use logic, follow your wires down, keep plugging stuff in till you get it right. Come back when I've got a little bit more accomplished over there. Alright guys, I'm a little bit further along. I had some problems over here. I'm going to show you here in just a second how I overcame them, and if you run into the same thing, maybe this will help you out putting the driver's side back together. But first, you see my friends, my neighbors, 2000 Civic in a couple of my videos, and he had a little water leak earlier, and I came out here and fixed it this morning. Nice guy as he is, he came out here and handed me this pack of Russian beer. He is native from Russia. I really appreciate that, Alexander. I know he watches my videos, so there you go. All right, let's get in here. I'm going to try and show you this mess here and how I overcame some problems that I was having. All right, the first thing I'm going to talk about is this wiring harness right here. Now, again, I've mentioned earlier that somebody's had the dash out of this car, and a lot of this was zip tied together and jury rigged. And I took it apart. I didn't take enough pictures, I suppose, to really demonstrate how that goes back in. Yours is probably going to look different if it's never been messed with before. So that blue tape, is certainly not Honda's. This black or brown plug here, I checked out from previous pictures and stuff, was never plugged in anything, so I have no idea where that goes. But the key here is this is the one that plugs into your module for your keyless entry. It's going to go here, and it's going to go like up in this part of the dash here. And so that was kind of one of the pictures I'd taken. That was my breadcrumb that led me back to where everything goes. So before I even get into that whole little wiring harness right there, I'll just mention that I came in on the fuse box side, and again, a lot of this stuff is not going to be original because it was not original when I got it. So, but at any rate, I came in, I plugged in everything. They only go one way in most cases. That seemed to work out for me. On the inside as well. And then this harness, this comes off of that harness I just showed you. And I don't know how it's supposed to be, but I just zip tied it to here. But that's where it was when I took the fuse box off to begin with. All right, I'm gonna switch and crawl up underneath and show you the back side of this fuse box. And there is a mistake I made, and it took me a little bit to figure it out, but I'll show you the trick. Give me just a second. All right, and again, off of this wiring harness that I just showed you, it comes up and it has this place here that's just open for something to plug into it. And then on the other side of it, it plugs into your fuse box. Now the problem I made the mistake of, is I didn't have a good enough picture of it, is where it plugs in from the underneath the dash into this, also fits into the fuse box. So if you go through and you plug everything in with your fuse box and this is plugged in, then you're going to come out and you'll say, well, where does this and the upper plug go? So don't make that mistake. It took me a little bit to figure that out, but we've moved right along. Again, I'm just going to try and show you, just so you can take a look at what I've got, and if you're running into any problems with yours, there you go. All right, I'm just about there. All right, we're looking in here. These are all your radio and controls and things here, so just don't worry about that. Come up under here where the SRS module is at. I'm going to show you how I've got everything ran. Get back behind it here. You see that pretty big ground strap back there that needs to be taken care of, and just see how everything runs. This is aftermarket, don't worry about that. Okay, well that's going to work for me. Again, we're almost close to firing this thing back up. One last thing I've got to do over here, pull this out. Okay, and this wire right here, it just has a couple of connectors and it runs to your e-brake with this one here. I know the light's kind of bad, it just fits in under there, so you can figure that out for yourself. Alright guys, I'm pretty much done now as far as all the wiring connectors go. I think I have everything plugged in. I found one, didn't see where anything went to it. It's this gray one here. It's got one wire running to it. So it's supposed to have a plug come up from the bottom there. I'm gonna have to go back and check my footage and see if that thing was even plugged in or not. I don't know. The only things that are disconnected right now is the radio controls, the radio antenna, and the plug for the keyless entry. Everything else is ready to go. I'll go ahead and give you a sneak preview. I've already connected the battery back up, turned the key, the fuel pump primed, everything dinged and donged the way it was supposed to, but I did not turn the car on yet. I went around with the key on. I smelled real good all around my fuse boxes on the driver's side as well, and even up underneath the hood there's one up in the front corner there just behind the airbag. This got your relays and things in it. Pulled the cover off of that, felt everything. Nothing felt like it was getting warm. So if you're smelling a three-parter, here it comes. We still have to get the hoses hooked up underneath the front of this, and go ahead and fill it back up with coolant and run it and see if we got some nice hot air coming out after it gets warmed up. So that will be the next video coming out. I'm sorry that this one's taken so long. There's just a lot to do, and we had the holiday, just came through that, and I just didn't have enough time to get to it. At any rate, I appreciate you guys watching. Part 3 will be out next week. Catch you then.